Jump back in every now and then. All right, so I was going to say first things first, but that was first things first. First things first, this is not so much a sermon as it is a conversation, just me chatting with my people. And then we will shift to a bit of a yoga class. And it's not the kind of yoga where you need to roll out a mat or even stand from your chair, but it's a yoga class nonetheless, because I'm going to be talking about an important part of yoga philosophy. And the Koshas is the model that I'll be sharing with you today. And this is a model that describes how we are made of many layers. And so, given that this is the oral tradition here, I'm going to repeat it many, many times. You don't have a piece of paper to refer to, you're not taking notes, so I'm going to repeat that. And my hope is that by the time you leave, later, you will be able to recall, after having heard it and also had an experiential, embodiment of these layers, you will be able to recall them. We're talking about authenticity this month, and I'll explain why I think these two things are connected as we go. The model of the Koshas is a teaching that we're made up of not one body, but 5. The word kosha is a Sanskrit word for sheath or layer. We have a physical sheath. We have a life force, an energy, which often manifests as breath, right? We can tell that this is a living body, the energy body. We have a mental and emotional body, the mental and emotional, so very linked that they share one sheath in this particular model. And notice how we're going from the gross to the more subtle as we go. The fourth, is the witness, or what we might call the wisdom body, where, as Mr. Dave described, we are kind, and it's always, always within us, no matter what. We find compassion or perspective. I think of this as like rising to a highest self. And then above that, there is the place, according to this model, where we each plug into that which is greater than ourselves. Family, community, God, nature, right? Where each of us is interconnected. I think of it as a connecting body. Okay. So why are we talking about this? Well, authenticity is what we're studying, and I want you to think about how when you hear the word authentic, it's almost entirely used in the context of the social, right? If you are, unless we're talking about like a piece of antique silverware or something, if we're talking about humans being authentic, it tends to be a social context. If you are sitting with a family member or friend and giving them the advice to be authentic, you might be sending this little one off for their first day of middle school, or sending a niece off to college. You might be talking to a friend who's nervous about a job interview or a first date. You are most certainly not giving this sage advice if you know that your friend is about to go home and, say, spend the evening scrubbing their kitchen floors, right? This tends to be a word we use for the social. And because we don't have a similar language for self-authenticity, we don't hear about that so much, I think we set ourselves up to assume, right? I think it's implicit that authenticity is this thing that we can choose to share or not, but we certainly know who we are. We certainly know ourselves. It's just a matter of, if I'm shy or if I feel safe enough, how much to share, whether to share. And that's unfair to ourselves. I think we set ourselves up when we view things that way, even implicitly. We do have this word self-knowledge, but think about that. Knowledge sounds like a fact, like something you learn once. And guess what? We are always changing, right? We are ever evolving. Sometimes quite slowly, yes, but we are always evolving. Sometimes not so slowly, right? And so if it's not a given that I know myself, what am I to do? It's hard enough if I do have a sense that I know myself to perhaps share or open up, right? Particularly if that's been hard for me in the past, particularly if I've experienced trauma with a small t, trauma with a large T, micro, macro. That whole piece is hard enough. But without a practice of first even knowing, right, who am I? That's a real challenge. So the good news is, well, what do? There's an ancient technology that we call yoga, and many other technologies like Qigong and Tai Chi and all kinds of things. And there's such practical bits of wisdom within these. So we're going to go through these koshas, and this is one very practical and ancient way for us to check in with ourselves, and not just once, right? It's a practice, and it's called a practice for a reason, right? So I always say, you know, we most of us brush our teeth in the morning, and it takes 1 or 2 minutes. We brush our teeth in the evening. It takes 1 or 2 minutes, and yet it's deeply, deeply important. We would probably agree, right? The amount of time we spend on it doesn't make it unimportant, right? This kind of model we might be able to use, practice more, perhaps sprinkled through our days, right? But I'd love to offer this. It's been incredibly helpful in my own life. So we will be feeling our physical bodies, our energy bodies, our mental emotional bodies. I love how some of you are starting to like sink in already, warming up. Our witness, love it, or wisdom body, and our bliss body or divine body or connecting body. So I'd like for everyone to just, keep getting super comfy. Feel free to shift. You may even close the eyes. If you prefer, you can drop your gaze, bring the gaze down. That's just for myself, but you're welcome to take a deep breath too if you'd like. It can only do good things. Long, slow breath. And here we are in the densest of our bodies. Feel the support that is beneath you. The chair, or if you're at home, perhaps a bed or a couch or a floor. And allow the body to say yes to that support, whatever that means to you in this moment. And there are so many ways for us to check in with the physical body. This might be beautiful, just feeling the support. What an important, helpful thing, right, for us to do often. To bring support, not just as a concept, but as a somatically experienced truth. The chair, which holds the floor, which is held by this very earth, which sustains us every single day with air and food and water. You may feel the temperature of the air on the skin. Connecting to that which is around you. You may feel your clothing on other skin. You may notice that you have dimensions, height. You can explore the height. Yeah. Width. depth. Many ways. For now, we'll just take another couple of breaths, recognizing that we are exploring our physical body, the one we can see, the densest, the one we can touch. And you may have already noticed that this physical body, and this blends us right into the next kosha, they're all so deeply interconnected. This physical body is moving, it's breathing. There's a rising and a falling. This is your prana or chi. Your hearts are beating an electromagnetic pulse very, very often that is keeping the whole body warm and alive. You might feel that aliveness as a sparkle or a stir or a buzz, a very, very subtle tingle. Sometimes I'll shake my hands. You're welcome to try this. And then stop, and it can help me just stir up. Oh yes, there's something sparkling, moving. The breath itself, a beautiful way to connect with the energy body. And in fact, many, many ancient techniques have us watch the breath, the rising, the falling. You can change the breath, or you can simply perch like a bird on a branch and notice that you are being breathed. And by the way, meditation is a practice we do no matter what. Sounds come. That's life. We do not wait for life to cease for our pristine meditation practice, right? Keep feeling the breath. And we'll shift, moving to those ever more subtle layers. Let's find ourselves embodying the mental emotional. And so that can mean feeling your heart. It might even mean touching the heart. It means being aware that the mind is constantly, sometimes, generating thoughts just like that heart is generating beats, and that's okay. They come and they go. The goal is not actually to stop them, at least how I see it. The mind is something we're pretty used to listening to. We have been trained to be pretty cerebral, listening to our thoughts from the time we're children in school through many adult workplaces. But what we might not be as good at is knowing they come, they go. We don't have to be the mind. We can be less attached to the mind. And then there's that emotional body. Some of us feel very easily, and some of us really could dwell here in some practice. Maybe there's some emotional content based on how your life has been going, based on recent events, based on events to come. Some sorrow or joy or anxiety or pride or some mix you don't even have to name. Just feel. We pay attention to what we care about, right? So we're just going to care for a moment more about this mental, emotional layer before we then drift up to the wisdom body. And this one's really interesting to practice. Many times when we practice the koshas, there's plenty to do just with those three, the physical, the energy, and the mental, emotional. The wisdom body is lovely to touch into, however, and I want you to know all five. This is probably the part of you you've already been accessing to the extent that you've been able to be kind with what comes. The extent to which you've been able to allow thoughts to come and to go. Witnessing. This is the realm of compassion and kindness. Kindness is not so much an emotion, it's a state of being. This is the realm of that state of being. You might say that this layer is the layer of love. Sometimes difficult to access, and sometimes we just find ourselves rising to an occasion. Yes? Expansive. This kosha has perspective, patience. This is the kosha that's good at being with whatever is happening, being with what is happening. Not fixing, not pushing away. Beautiful focus, guys. Thanks so much for that. And then this last of the koshas, the bliss body or Anandamaya kosha, which is where we plug in or weave our way into that which is greater. So that might be God for you, or a god, or gods, or goddesses, and that might not. That's not a problem at all with this model. If for you it's science, nature. We might even allow the eyes to very, very gently open here and become aware of the space around us, even just with the eyes still down, a sense that we are here together in Sangha. And if you'd like to keep the eyes closed, that's beautiful, and feel that. You don't have to see that. You may call ancestors to mind. I often, when I want to find this kosha, go out and look at the sky. It is greater than me. Or we could look at this ceiling, this beautiful shape, which is the roof protecting each one of us. And that extends to you at home energetically. This is our current, cave for our dwelling together, right? Quite often for me, I think of nature. I go out and I look at the trees, or I look out at the green we are so lucky to have it surrounding us in this space. These trees which know exactly what I need to take in, and what I give back is exactly what they need, right? So this is a large one. So let us travel once more back down more swiftly through from the bliss body, the connective body, the divine body, to our highest personal self, our wisdom body, or the witness, down to the mental emotional body, down to the energetic body or life force, down to this physical body that's sitting here in this chair. And then I always encourage us, if you're still dwelling within with the eyes closed, that's such a beautiful choice, take your time to come out, right? So that you don't just flash the eyes wide open. You might look down. You might notice your own legs. And then the sort of ring of space around you and around you and around you. Bringing ourselves from the me space back to the we space. Keeping the me as we see once again the we. whenever I guide these meditations, I notice our community in particular is really good at coming out slowly, which tells me there's perhaps a going in deeply. And so I just want to walk, this conversation about authenticity back to ourselves, right? We are in a culture that doesn't make a whole lot of time or space for that, right? And the me in all its many, many layers, we're so much more, right, than we might think, is worth tapping into. It's worth your time. It's worth your practice. I would say daily. Maybe we shoot for daily. And it can be organic, right? What's my body doing in response to that? What do I feel right now? Let me just strip things down to physical sensation because I'm a bit overwhelmed, etc. Right? So I'll just close the way I tend to close my yoga practices. May this practice be meaningful. May this practice bear fruits. And may the fruits of our practice benefit ourselves and our loved ones and ripple out and out and out to all beings. Everywhere, all beings, everywhere. The light in me honors the light in each one of you. Namaste.